Welcome back to the High Vibe Life podcast with me, your host, Moira and halfway around the world joining me is Kylie Jones from 50 and Fearless on Instagram. I am thrilled to have you virtually in the studio. Welcome to the show. I have 1,000 questions. You really, truly are one of the most powerful voices for me as a 49-year-old in the online space. I mean, no account pops up and gives me more inspiration, more of that like, yes, I agree, me too. This is how I feel. This is how I think. This is what's going on in my life. I am so curious. If I was to ask you, who is Kylie Jones and what does she do in the world? How would you even respond to that?
Oh, that's a big question. First of all, thank you so much. I love that I'm having this impact, but it didn't
Yes.
start that way. It didn't
Mm.
start that way. And so who is Kylie Jones? Kylie Jones now is probably a very confident, I feel empowered, and I also feel like I'm on an incredible journey
Mm.
that didn't start this way. So if I just take you back nearly 2 years ago now, I suddenly lost both my parents, and I was retrenched from my 30-year career in a space of a year.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a lot to say the least, and I was really broken. And I think what happened is I lost who I was, because
Mhm.
losing your parents is a huge impact on you. And then this career that I'd built and I was so passionate about and I'd given everything to was also gone overnight.
Wow.
So I was trying to rebuild myself, and I was struggling to get back in the industry, which really blew my mind. I was applying for so many roles that I could do standing upside down, and I wasn't getting even an interview. And
Wow.
one night I really hit rock bottom and I wasn't in a good place. And I opened up my laptop and I had all these things I wanted to say and I didn't know where to start. And so I opened an Instagram page and I called it 50 and Fearless, and it was literally therapy for myself. That
Mm.
was the whole idea of how do you come home to yourself? How do you find yourself again? Because I was completely lost. But what I did know is creativity was the thing that brought me joy. I'd worked in advertising, marketing for 30 years. I'm a creative person. So I thought I'm just going to start creating things for myself to try and bring some joy to my life and
Yeah.
get out of bed every morning. That's where I was at. I had to find a purpose to get up every day. Um, and so that's how it started. Like it was
I love
literally
it.
for myself. Yeah.
I
And
love it.
from
And
there,
I feel like that's how greatness is born. Like that from such that authentic place, but also unfortunately and fortunately now such a
mm,
broken place, right? When we have been at rock bottom and like you said, we find something that is so self-serving at first, but then we start to kind of be the butterfly that comes out of the cocoon and we think we can't just keep this for ourselves, right? We know there's so many other women out there struggling just the same. And I love that. I didn't know what your previous career was. I was so curious. So it totally makes sense that it was advertising and marketing and something creative because your Instagram is so creative. And so I'm curious, if we go back 2 years, you
mm.
literally, I mean, you guys, if for this audience, she has over 1 million followers on Instagram. Like there are very few people on the earth that have that kind of a following. And I know without asking that is 100% authentic. That is 100% real because you and I
Yeah.
also both know that there are a lot of accounts out there with millions of followers that weren't built authentically. And this is so real. And so take me on that journey. Like, where did you even start? Because I feel like my audience is a lot of creators, it's a lot of entrepreneurs that are women that are, doing what we do, creating content for Instagram. What did it look like in the very beginning, literally content wise, and building that following? And when did it start to get traction?
I think so. Originally, as I was faceless, so I didn't show my face for 8 months. It was really
Wow.
my own personal journey, and it was me trying. to come home to myself basically and find myself again. So each day I would remember things that I loved or quotes or my thoughts. And then when I found it really started gaining that traction is when I started using old movies, because I think we were really connecting to that nostalgia of what life was like in the 80s and 90s and what we grew up with. And that's when it really started to gain the traction.
Yeah.
And I think because we wanted to go back to that place, remember our childhood, remember that what built us into the women we are today. And I
Mm.
talk a lot about that. I talk about, we grew up that we came home from school, we grabbed our bikes, we went out and we didn't come home until the lights, the street lights came on. But with that, I think it built resilience, it built creativity, it built all of these things that make us the women we are today. That's when it really started to take off when I spoke in that language. But then I think 8 months into it, I was sitting at around, I think it was around 400, 500,000 followers. And I came to this place of, okay, I can keep creating every single day and entertain people,
Right.
but I want more than this. I want to be more than just someone entertaining. And so I decided to, as I call it, I came out. And I came out and I said, "Hi, I'm Kylie Jones. This is me." And my phone blew up that day because I had so many family and friends following me and they had no idea it was me. No
Oh
idea.
my goodness.
I told absolutely no one what I was doing
Wow.
because like so many women, I was so scared of being judged. I was
Yes.
scared of what family and friends would say. I was terrified of then showing my authentic self to people. Like this is actually me, and
Yeah.
then telling my story. But I think when I told my story and I put a face to it, that's when women really connected with it. And that's when I gained a bigger voice and confidence. And then it really rolled from there.
Oh my goodness. This story, I mean, you pull back the curtain on it a little bit and it just gets better and better and better and it makes so much sense, right? Because all of us that are creating content, it's so scary to put yourself out there. Just like you said, the fear of judgment, the fear of what your neighbor's going to say, the fear of I mean, really, it comes down to what we just said, the fear of judgment. And so it makes so much sense too that you are able to be so bold and, speak your truth and speak exactly what you wanted to speak into the world because you didn't have a face on it. And
Yeah.
then kind of getting that backing of like, people want to hear this. And oh my gosh, they don't know who the woman is behind the curtain. It's so fun. And you also totally connected the dots because I love your content. And it's interesting because whenever I post something very similar, if I ever flash back or I speak of, these icons in their 50s and 60s, that piece of content just takes off. But what I wasn't really thinking about was it's beyond the connection of just, oh yeah, I grew up the same way. And it's fun to have that connection that we can relate to. It's the magic of the freedom of who we were when we were kids and we were dreaming so big and there
True.
was no ceiling on anything and there was wonder and there was awe and there was play and there was so much joy and you really just connected those puzzle pieces for me. That's what we're resonating with emotionally with the content.
Totally. And I talk a lot, like I'm doing a lot of things at the moment. I talk about coming home to yourself. And
Mhm.
when you come home to yourself, that's actually taking off all the hats as women that we wear. So, we are mothers and wives and partners and sisters and daughter. Like there's so many different hats as women we wear.
Mhm.
And then we have careers and everything else. And I think when we wear all those hats, we lose actually truly who we are and what lights us up. So I talk a lot
Yes.
about coming home to yourself and reconnecting with yourself and doing simple things that bring you joy. But we forget
Yeah.
about that. And at the moment, I was talking on my community page about come home to yourself and remember the things you loved as a young girl. So
Yeah.
when you were like, 14 to 17, what were the things you loved? And start doing them again. And a
Mhm.
lot of it's as simple as, painting or writing or singing. And one lady came to me and said, I loved creating music. And now I realize I want to do that again. And I feel connected to myself again. It's such simple things. But as women, we have all these responsibilities that we lose that real connection with ourselves. And I think it's so
Yes.
important. That's where I think the nostalgia videos work so strongly.
Yes, absolutely. I had a big mastermind that I coached these women through for over a year. And I used to always think about like, and say, we're stepping into this 2.0 version of ourselves and it's this reinvention. And I remember having a lady that was really kind of just having trouble getting there. Everyone else was so fired up about it. And I said to her, I was like, it's actually more of a becoming and a returning to. And it was like an instant unlock for her, right? She wasn't trying to leapfrog into this new future identity. She was really just coming back to who we always have been. And
That's right.
that is so powerful. Gosh. And I love the idea of going back to what brought us joy, right? I remember, the first time I ever talked to a life coach, it was like before life coaching was a thing. And it
Yeah.
was probably when I was 25 and I was trying to figure out what in the world I was going to do with my life. And I remember this very intelligent, super successful guy was like, well, he sits me down and he's like, what did you like to do in kindergarten? And I'm like, I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing with my career, buddy.
Hi, we're back at kindergarten.
Right. But it's so true. It was all there in the beginning. So then,
And
okay.
we let it go. That's the thing. It's
Yes.
all there, and we let that joy, those simple things that brought us joy, go. And when you come back and you reconnect with that, that's when all these other doors open up, I believe.
Yeah, I totally agree, right? I talk a lot about energy and vibration. It's like when we're joyful and we are just emitting this different frequency and this different energy, like that's how we connect with all the things that we want. And, so often I think women don't realize they think they want these things that are outside of them, whether it's a certain income or a certain car.
Hmm.
And it's always because of the feeling we think we're going to get from that. And every feeling is available to us right now,
That's
today, you know?
100%. Yeah.
Uh,
It's
can we
interesting.
dig? Go ahead.
Sorry. Well, because I was going to say it's interesting that you say that because I've always wanted to have my own business, do my own thing, and I probably have written, I'm going to say 10 different business plans, marketing
Mhm.
strategies that just never got up. And I find it interesting. A friend said to me the other day, if you sat down and wrote this strategy, it would never have happened
Right.
because it all happened so organically. And I felt like once I came out and said it was me, I was in this slipstream. And because I just felt so energetically aligned to what I was doing, and that's when I think it all took off. There's still been no real big brand strategy, marketing plan that I have been doing for 30 years. And I don't do anything like this because I think it's just now so naturally aligned to what
Yes.
I feel with inside me.
Yes, 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 yes. Yes, I love this so much. We are overthinking and overcomplicating our
Really.
dreams so much. Talk
Yes.
to me about, and if you don't mind me asking, I know right before we hit record, we were talking about the age of my kids. How many kids do
Mhm.
you have in their ages?
One son, he's
W-
17.
Okay, one son, 17. So talk to me about what that has looked like. You touched on when we wear the career hat, when we wear the mom hat, when we wear the spouse hat, all the hats and the jobs that we do, there's a balance there, right? Because we want to be the best versions of ourselves with those roles, but so often all of the roles can take away who we are at our essence. So how do we balance that? How do you teach women to balance that?
It's a really tough one. I've been a single mum since he was two. So it's always
Mm-hmm.
just been him and I. I've
Mm-hmm.
had, my marketing roles were very full on. Um, I think the balance comes that you've got to take time out for yourself. And you
Yeah.
do. And I talk a lot about this, and I do have a lot of women come to me, not a lot, a few women come and say, "Oh, but that's quite selfish." And my
Mm-hmm.
thing on that is, how can you truly show up 100% yourself, as in you're happy, you're content with life, you're loving life, and be really present with your family and your children if you're not happy within yourself?
Right.
And I hear this so much from women in my community now that one lady, it's a great story. I love it. She had three boys and her husband, and she said, I just cracked it one day and said, I'm done. I am done with all of you. And she said, I'm not completely leaving you, but I'm going to go to Thailand for 4 weeks by
Wow.
myself. I am just going. I am absolutely done. And she was completely lost in who she was.
Yeah.
And she went to Thailand. And in that time, she rediscovered herself. She said she then has written a book, like her journey is amazing. But she said, I came back a different mother, a different
Mm.
wife, because I was happy within myself. She said, it's completely changed now my relationship with my children and my husband because I realized I hadn't been happy for so long, but that was because I'd given up on myself. And
Yeah.
she said, then I reconnected with myself. And when I did, I am now a better mother, a better mum. And she said,
Absolutely.
now my family's hilarious. They're like, Mum, you need to go away for a week. She said, they can see it now. They're like, you need to go away for a week. Go to Thailand, go wherever you want to go. So I think
Yes.
it's not selfish. It's so important as women, we take this time for ourselves. And I think I probably didn't take enough time out for myself because it was just always my son and I. But I made sure I did little things like I'm big into swimming in the ocean. So I made sure
Mm.
every morning I had my ocean swim. So then I would start the day happy, content within myself. Even though my son will still tell you now, I was always, grumpy and screaming probably, but
That's kids for you, right? I
that's
love when
right.
my kids are like, "Stop screaming at me." I'm like, "Oh, you have no idea. I am not screaming at you. I barely raised my
Dragging
voice."
out of you.
I love that. And it doesn't surprise me that you're a swimmer. There, for me, there is nothing that compares to the feeling of swimming,
Yeah.
especially if you're in open water. I mean, there's just a magic to it that is completely unmatched in my book. Let's dig a little
And with
deeper.
my morning, then you don't want to know. I just went for a swim and I came up and it was in the distance. And we're going into whale season here because they're migrating north and there was a whale to swim past. I'm like, oh my God.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, a lot of
That's
stuff.
incredible. Talk about some energy there. Wow.
Yeah.
So you talk about this lady going to Thailand, you said? Did you say Thailand?
Yeah, she went to
Yeah.
Thailand. Thailand. Yeah.
So I feel like people are probably listening to this thinking, okay, maybe you don't have 4 weeks to go to Thailand. Maybe it's a weekend. But also, what does it look like in everyday life? You touched a little bit on like it might be painting, it might be something, simple and playful. But for people that are thinking, okay, I kind of understand going away for a weekend, really spending that introspective time to just spend time with yourself, get to know yourself again. But
Yeah.
like, I'm even curious of that for that woman. What did it look like when she came home? Like, was there something else she was doing in her everyday life, or do you feel like just the time away was a good reset?
No, then she's completely relooked at her career now. Like
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
relooking at everything in her world because she's 52 and she said, I relate to what you said. I talk a lot about the hormonal shift and
Hmm.
I talk of it in the very positive way. So
Hmm.
when the estrogen drops, it actually I talk about you step into your no F's era. Don't know if I can swear
Mm.
on here.
Yeah. Oh, you absolutely can, sister.
So I talk about you go into no fucks era. And that's
Yes.
scientifically proven because women have high estrogen and that's their nurturing, that's their kindness and their,
Hmm.
that's built in us to be these amazing mums and give everything over to our family. And most of us do that. But when our estrogen drops, that's when we actually step into this new space of what about me now? This is my time. What do
Yes.
I want to do? And I think I love talking about the power of menopause versus the negative. Yes,
Yeah.
it's not easy, and a lot of people go through a lot of things. But if you step into the power of it, it is such an amazing time of your life, and it's very
Yes.
transformative and you do step into this amazing energy. And again, I
Yes.
go, that's not being selfish. That's finally coming home to yourself and going, what do I now want this next phase of my life to look like? This chapter, what does it look like for me? And I think that's what she went through. She needed that time
Mm.
out to go, actually, and throwing, I'm out of here as a mum. That I said to her, well, that's your estrogen dropping. She's like, oh, I didn't realize that. Like that's that drop that goes, oh, I'm done for a while.
Yes.
She had time to think about what lights her up, what brings her joy. And she has now started a travel company taking women on tours to Thailand,
Oh
which
my
is
gosh.
launching later this year. Like brilliant.
Oh
And
my
that's
gosh.
joy.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. That is amazing. And I love every single thing you just said Because yes, there's a part of this season of life where we want to uncover solutions, right? I want to feel better, or I want to be a little bit more active and things like that. But I totally agree. I can remember, because I talk a lot about the power of inquiry, right? When we ask ourselves better questions, we get better answers. And so I can remember hitting this like rock bottom of menopause, perimenopause. And one day it crossed my mind. I was like, because I had this fear, right? I started to experience all this brain fog. And again, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with taking a supplement or something like that to try to help that. But there was this random thought in the rock bottom that was like, wait, maybe I'm not supposed to completely work my ass off and you grind and work a million hours like I have for the past 20 years. Maybe this is like a God-given shift, because my fear was I couldn't work like I've always worked, right? I couldn't go, 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 go. And I was
Yeah.
like, I don't want to effing do that anymore. Like,
And that's the shift. Isn't it interesting? And I find it very universal that I was in that moment. I was in menopause, in my role. It was a head of marketing. It was full on. And I was same thing. I had the brain fog. I was stressed out. Then next minute, you're retrenched. And I think it was the universe going, okay, you got to stop now. Like you have
yes.
got, yeah, it's amazing how it all comes together and how many
Yeah.
ladies I speak to that are being retrenched at this age
Hmm.
and are leaving really upset, but then going, hang on, let me just have this moment to myself and go, this is a
Yes.
blessing. This is an amazing blessing.
Absolutely. And I feel like we're just inundated, especially on Instagram, on social media, with the negative side and then the 10,000 solutions. And it's like, what if the solution was to embrace this season instead of fight and fight and fight and fight? There's such a beauty and such a gift to it all.
It's an incredible gift, I think now, and that's what I talk about. There's an incredible power, and if you step into that and you actually feel that power, it is a
Yeah.
complete gift. And it's interesting. I did a podcast a little while ago, and it really went crazy because I looked at a lot of data, and the number one growing, well, the highest growing segment for startup businesses is women over 50. And I
Yes.
think we talk about startup businesses and we talk about a lot of the younger, people in their 20s and 30s and all these entrepreneurs. And someone then said to me, why do you think that is? Now, my belief is that we don't care so much about people's opinion as women over 50. So we
Right.
do step into that power. And again, I think that's all about the hormonal shift. And that's why we go, you know what? I've thought about this business for 20 years
Hmm.
sometimes. I am now going to do it. I'm
Yeah.
going to take the leap and I'm going to do it because I don't care what everyone else is going to think so much about me.
Yeah.
That is why it is such a huge growing segment for startups. And I
Yes.
love
And
that. I love
I
finding
love
it.
that. It's so
Yeah.
powerful, and there's such a freedom to it, right? And such a age of opportunity. I think the other thing, and don't get me wrong, I will be so sad when my kids go off to college and I get to that empty nest stage. But so many women completely, that is their identity. And there's nothing wrong with being a homemaker and that being your main thing and raising children. But then that identity is gone and they're just left with this vast gaping hole and they kind
Yeah.
of stay stuck there. And I'm like, wait a second, the kids are gone. Like, we get to do anything we want. We have, and again, it's also this, I think, this point in our lives where we're like, we don't have necessarily, I mean, we never know when our time is up, but in our 20s, we think, we've got 18 lives
Forever.
ahead of us. When
Yeah.
we hit 50, it's like, oh, there's maybe a few decades left, a couple really good ones. Like, it's now
Yeah.
or never, and there's power in that as well.
Absolutely. And I think, and I'm going to be honest, I probably didn't think so deeply until you just said that. I think everything happened at once, like losing my mum and dad, who were only 72 and 73. So that, in
Oh,
my eyes, was
wow.
very young. So
Yeah.
I think that was like, okay, you've spoken about stuff for so many years about doing my own thing. And I think that's in the back of my mind constantly as well. It's like
Yeah.
that's to your point, only 2 decades away. And
Right.
to take the action now if you really want to have impact on the world.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely. And that is such another big piece of this life. I'm so sorry that you've lost your parents. I've lost both of mine too. I just lost my mom last year,
I'm
and
so
I just see
sorry.
so many people losing parents. And I've always said I lost my dad when I think I was in my late 20s, but young to lose your dad. And I
Very
just
young.
remember thinking like it's like you lose your place. It's almost like my mom used to always say a family is like the baby mobiles that hang over the crib, and she used to always say when one person changes, everything shifts. But I've always thought when you lose a parent, everything really shifts, right? It's
Yeah.
like this a little bit of losing your place in the world. We were our mom and dad's little girl when we came into the world, and we will always be that. But when they leave this earth, there really is a whole identity shift of who am I again, and finding your footing in the world. And again, it's hard, but it's also an incredible opportunity to just be authentically you and find your footing a little bit better.
100%. It's a really beautiful take on that, be authentically you, because I think even in early 50s, I was still wanting to please my mum and dad.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And I think they were so proud of what I'd done in my career. And I think if I said, oh, I just now do an Instagram page, my parents were like, what are you talking about? Get a proper job, get a proper job. So,
Yes.
that kind of, you come home to yourself, I suppose, in that way, because you don't have that parental
Yes.
guidance. Yeah, I think that's a really interesting take on it. And I like that. That kind of just sat with me then going, oh yeah, because I
Yeah.
think they would probably be saying, go back and get a proper job, Kylie. Yeah, if they
Yeah,
were,
I'm sure they would be. But
get a
look at
proper
you
job.
now. Talk to me about you've got some do you have coaching programs and you have a community and things like that. Talk to me a little bit about kind of, obviously you started kind of a brand. I mean, it is a huge brand now. And so
Yes.
that following started to build. How did you start to not only monetize that, but more importantly, really teach the women? Like, what were you thinking in the beginning? Like, am I going to do a course? Am I going to start a community? How did you start and what did it build into today?
Great question. So I didn't start with any plan, as I said before, and
I love it.
yeah, no plan whatsoever. And do you know what? It's coming up to 2 years now, and it's probably taken me that to get my head around it, to be
Yeah.
honest. I actually went away overseas at Christmas time this year because I was feeling quite overwhelmed,
Yeah.
and because it happened so quickly for me, and it wasn't I'm quite structured when it comes to business. I've got to have my business plan and my marketing
Yes.
strategy and all that, and I had none of that. And I was overwhelmed, like, what now? What do I do
Yeah.
now? I've got this incredible following. I've got these women that are actually really, really resonating and connecting with what I'm saying. But what I found myself doing at first is being online, answering constantly
Right.
questions. And I had to tell myself, I'm not a counselor, I'm not a marriage guidance person, but I was so wanting to help as many women as I can. And I had to remove myself a little from that and go, okay,
Mhm.
you can't be guiding every single person. You need to come out of that, and how can I make this a movement as such? And that's when I started the community channel, and that's when I wanted people to help each other, and that's what I'm
Yes.
now in the background building.
Mm.
I want to build, a media platform for women over 50, and I'm really, really passionate about marketing and advertising now stepping up and seeing the absolute value in women, because we don't see over 50s in ads very
Yeah.
often.
Yeah.
We're marketing products to women over 50, but we
Hmm.
put 20 and 30-year-olds. So I
Yeah.
think now what I've gone a little bit above my thinking originally, and I'm looking at now from that media space, and I want a community and media space where women come to 50 and fearless and go, I relate to it, I see myself there, I see myself in marketing. That's a huge thing that I want to shift. I want to start working with brands and getting them to move to feature women over 50. Some are doing it, but very little are doing it.
Yes.
So I've kind of put my marketing brand hat back on. But so from within the business, sorry, I went sidetracked on the marketing.
No, I
Within
loved
my
all of
business, I
it.
have the course. Yeah, I have the courses, and the courses are very much about coming home to yourself, reconnecting with yourself, finding yourself again. And I cover everything in that. I talk about the feminine side. I think we
Mm.
lose that as women sometimes, really connecting back to our feminine energy. And I did that. I
Especially as women in
became,
business, right? Women, I mean, women in business, you put the pants on.
you do, and you feel like you have to have that masculine energy in business to
Hmm.
get anywhere. I know I worked in a very masculine dominant industry, so I felt I had to show up quite masculine, probably. So I do a course about connecting back to your femininity, and that's about coming home to yourself, really, and back to what brings you joy, what lights you up. And that all of my courses are from my personal experience.
Yeah.
So I am not a life coach. I am just someone that's saying these are the things that I did to help myself and reconnect with myself. And like another course I have in there is helping your friend through divorce. And
Mm.
I sadly had two of my best friends go through really tough divorces. And I know what I did as a friend to help them through that. So that's just a guide of the little things you can do to create such big impact while they're going through some of the hardest times.
That's
So my course,
amazing.
yeah, my courses aren't from life coach space, it's from personal journey space, things that work for me, and that's what I share.
That, my friend, is my favorite type of guide. I mean, I feel very similarly that I had so much life experience and had so much to share and teach. And, for so many years, it was like helping all these women and feeling a little insecure because, or, a little bit of the imposter syndrome because I'm like, oh, I'm not the therapist. I'm not, the certified this or that. But gosh, it's been my own life experience that every single trial I have ever gone through, and I've gone through addiction and eating disorders and all the things, I needed somebody on the other side that had walked that same exact path. That helped me get to the other side so much faster than any professional that had learned it in a textbook ever could. So I feel like you're discounting yourself a little bit here because that's what women need more of, right? They just need another woman that is a little bit further ahead on the path, that has gone through what they're experiencing to throw us the life raft. And I'm sure that's why, and that's what's happening in your community. And that's why it's so powerful and such an incredibly supportive space, right?
Yeah, I love that too, that imposter syndrome. I think that's what I was going through at
Mhm.
the end of last year. And that's when I'm like, okay, you now have to fully embrace and step into this because anytime I shared my story about how it started and where I'd come from, everyone really connected and resonated with that, going, you've shown me that, you can one step in front of the other and you can make a
Yes.
change and you can make a shift. And that's when it really connects with me, like women out there want to hear real stories. And to your point,
Yes.
sitting with a qualified therapist isn't always the perfect way.
Right.
It works for some, and but also we want to hear real stories of women that have gone through it. And anytime, if my birthday the other day, I just said, this is what the last year's been like for me, and women were like, I get it, that's amazing, I connect
Yeah.
with that, and I understand that. And I think that's why I want to really build a strong community platform, which I'm
Yeah.
currently working on, because it's not just about me saying things. I
Hmm.
want women to talk to each other. So I want them to go into the community platform and say, I'm going through this. Is anyone else experiencing that? Love to chat. Because I think
Yes.
that's the power when women come together and they share experiences of what they've been through. I think that's so powerful to help each other.
Absolutely. And connection. I mean, we haven't even touched the fact that we are so lonely and so disconnected and you know everyone, men and women, we need connection more than anything this day and age. So I'm curious, is the community housed on Facebook or where is that?
No, it's on the Instagram, IG channel. We have it on
Okay.
there. But I am currently in the process of building our own platform. So,
Awesome.
yeah, I'm building the own platform, and that's the other thing about connection. I have so many women saying, "Can we meet up? Well, I want to
Yeah.
meet up." So we're starting some events coming in the next few months. Our biggest problem, which is a great problem to have, but it is global. Like we
Yes.
literally are in every single corner of the world. And I have these caps that I sell, and every day or week I go to the post office, it just blows my mind where they're going. They go from
Wow.
Iceland to Africa to Asia to America, like everywhere. And I just think, okay, this is brilliant, but I just want to put everyone in one room. How do we do that
Yeah.
globally? You know?
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, we need to make it happen here in Charleston, South Carolina. So
Yes.
we
Yes. I
we
will
have
come.
a site for you to host. This is so powerful. It reminds me. I used to train people. I had a Pilates studio for many years when I was younger, for 17 years. And I love connection. I love conversation. Like I always say, this is my love language. Like if I can just sit with somebody and have a cup of tea or a juice and just talk and talk and talk, nothing fills my heart more. And so I always kind of had that with my clients, but I could recognize, their own walls, and they kind of would talk to me, but they didn't want to necessarily talk to anyone else. And when I switched to online communities, gosh, 12 years ago, I remember thinking this is going to be so cold and this is going to be so weird, and I don't know about this online space. And what I was so shocked about, and then it finally made sense, people would come into this community and just bare their soul and share their stories and be so open and so vulnerable. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. I thought it was going to be the opposite. But what I found was most of the time people come into a community, they don't know the other people in the community, right? It is their safe space. Their best
They-
friend that they brought to Pilates isn't next to them. And it's the
Yeah.
same thing you referenced earlier, like being able to be more bold, having lost your parents, because you don't feel like somebody's kind of right there looking over your shoulder. And so often, and I just want to encourage anyone listening, so often online communities are just a magic that you can't imagine until you really get in one.
Totally. And I think that's the thing. You then have more open conversations that
Hmm.
sometimes maybe you don't even have with your friends because you don't want to share that piece of you.
Yes.
I think that's why it's so important that we build these safe spaces for women to really talk about everything. And what I find so interesting, it doesn't matter what corner of the world you are in, we are going through the same stuff as women.
Right.
And I think the more we can share that, the better we are to help each other out. And, we as women grow and step into that power. And then I think that movement creates greater change within the world as well.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Let's touch on this as we start to wrap up. I could be here for 3 hours with you. I know I could. I'll be here till the wee hours of the night. You talked a little bit about this. I know for you, it must be a tricky balance, right? You're a career woman, you're driven, you've accomplished so much in your life with this huge, massive following that has grown up so quickly. There has to be, I'm sure, a side of it that feels like pressure, that feels like a massive responsibility. But you are in your 50s trying to live this amazing, joyful life. So, how do you manage both sides of that coin?
It's a great question. It's interesting. I probably haven't worked harder in my life. Like the hours, I don't really switch off, but
Yeah.
that's because I'm so passionate about it. Like I love it. I love what I'm doing. But I have recently said to myself, you need to find that balance again. Because it is that classic when you love what you're doing, you actually don't feel like you're working. And I don't.
Yes.
Like I will, I'm constantly on my phone and I'm constantly checking things. But what I've realized, and especially with the son going through last year of school, I need to be very present with him as
Yes.
well. And I need to step away from it. So I do try and then block my day. My mornings always
Mhm.
are morning swims, time for me, and then evenings is with him, helping him with his schoolwork, doing all of that sort of stuff. So I'm very present in that moment.
Yeah.
But when you are in your own business, and I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that relate to this, and you really are passionate what you do, you are on all the time. And
Yeah.
but I love it. So I find it really
Yeah.
hard. And even when I go away, I'm still, if I go away on holidays or something, I'm still very much in it. So I'm
Yeah.
probably not the best example of not switching off. But what I'm also doing now is starting to do more of the things that bring me joy.
Hmm.
So, I used to love painting. I want to get back into painting and those sort of things. And I'm really taking the time out. I talk a lot about morning notes, and I think
Hmm.
morning notes are so powerful. So it is when you start journaling as soon as you wake up. So
Yes.
try and not get too much into the day, but grab a journal and start writing, because what happens is you're tapping into your actual deep subconscious thoughts.
Hmm.
And a lot of the time, that's when the great stuff comes up about what are the things you need to be doing more of, and
Hmm.
what are the things that bring you joy, and you just start writing. And so I'm starting to do a lot of that as well to try and really reconnect back to myself, which I say to
Yeah.
everyone to do, and then do more of those things that I love.
I love that. I love that. You kind of answered my next question with what you just shared. And that is I've been in seasons of my career where it feels like this, right? Where you're super passionate, where you can't turn it off, where the problem is really I love it so much, it's hard to stop.
Yeah.
What about for the women? And this is really at the crux of everything you're doing. The woman that is kind of building her business, but it feels like hustle, it feels like grind, it feels like burnout.
Yeah.
Do you think it's that they're not on the right path or it just needs to shift a little bit? What do you say to the woman that kind of feels like she's pushing the boulder up the hill?
Such a good question. Because I'm going to be really honest, I felt like that 6 months ago.
Yeah.
Because I went, you know what I did? I put on that business hat and I was like, go, 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 and push, 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 push. And I was really pushing, and I wasn't getting anywhere. I'm going to be honest, like
Mm.
where I wanted to go on that business plan. And then I completely surrendered and went, in the first year you built this with no plan,
Right.
and you trusted your gut. You trusted your gut, and everything fell into place. And now you've gone two in your head and out of your heart. You've gone into
Yes.
your head and you're pushing like the way you used to push in business. And I felt like I was really hitting a block everything I was trying to do. And in the last 4 months, I have very much gone to, you have to trust. So go back into your heart more and your gut more, and trust that, versus get out of your head. And I
Hmm.
think as women, we do get into our head because we want to make everything perfect and we want to make sure everything works. And I think, though, we are such powerful human beings, women. And I
Yes.
think one of our most powerful things is our gut instincts.
Hmm.
And we have to trust that. And now that I've surrendered over a little bit to the brain push, push, push
Hmm.
strategy, everything had to be written down, tick box, and gone
Mm.
back into the space how I started this, I find the universe has come back to me going, okay, now we're back on track again. Let's keep going.
Yes.
Yeah.
I could not love what you just shared anymore because, again, so often when we're in burnout, we want to just quit, right? We think,
Mhm.
like, well, this isn't what I'm supposed to be doing. So we kind of just want to pivot 180 degrees. But often it's just, no, we are doing the thing that we love, that we are doing the thing that we're most passionate about, that we are in supposed to do. We know this is our purpose, but like you said, and I'm speaking to myself here, we've turned it into a grind and numbers and metrics and all the things. And man, I can look back on some of the biggest things I've built and I was just in flow, right? I was just in my joy and it was just happening. And so often the answer is get back to that. I always say, and I've given so many like keynotes around the concept of listening to the whisper.
Oh, I
And,
love.
because that's what it is, right? It's just that whisper. It's just that gentle guidance that's always there 24 hours a day. But because we are such powerful women, we are like just overriding it.
Yeah. So true.
Yeah.
And I did get to that point of I'm I'm going to be honest. I was like, I'm done. I'm done.
Yeah.
This isn't working. It wasn't working the way I was trying to push, where it had worked because I was trusting it at the start.
Mm.
So I had to go back to that and get out of my corporate head as well, because I was so used to going into that corporate space. And that's where I talk about that feminine side. I went, I think, into that masculine of pushing, pushing, pushing. And I had to come back into the place that started it. And that was really that soft, gentle energy and allowing things to just flow again. And when I did that, it all changed.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I think about the difference and I just see it so clearly of like, we're just so similar. The business hat that this is what I'm going to do next. This is what I'm going to build. This is how I'm going to monetize. This is how this is going to look versus when you shared about those first few posts, when you opened up an Instagram account and it was just this faceless account and you were just writing from your heart and sharing from your heart and just the complete dichotomy of those two. And yeah, it's just like you said, it's a coming back to, right? It's always a coming back to.
That's
Yeah.
right. And that's where I came back. Instead of trying to, make it all about a business, come back to what I'm so passionate about, and that is helping women and step more into that and doing what I love, and everything else will come and flow around it. And that's kind of exactly where I'm at the moment. And
Oh,
things are coming into my world that I probably didn't expect to, because I'm now just trusting it will. As I trust that, I'm doing what I'm passionate about, and that is really trying to make a difference for women over 50, that and helping them see how they really are stepping into their most powerful era as a woman. And that's my
yes.
passion, and then everything else is sort of falling around it.
Oh my gosh, so beautiful. So, so, so beautiful. I love this so much. I have one more business question, and then I really want to ask kind of what's coming. We've touched on it a little bit, but as you have built, in these last couple years, you all of a sudden have millions of followers, you've got tons of DMs, you're starting a community, you're thinking about, stepping into this big, powerful branding, advertising world for women over 50. What did it look like for you to, in that process, continue to do what you were so joyful about and called to? And then obviously you must have had to hire an assistant and then hire another assistant or offload some of this work, right? Or have you done it all yourself this entire time? Because I know that's always a really sticky part where we start to inch into burnout.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
often it's like, hey, you can't do it all
Totally.
yourself. At some point
Totally.
we need to start delegating some things. So what did that journey look like for you?
So interesting. So I have someone that's worked for me for about a year now, with the content creating. So we will create that together. But only on Monday, just 2 days ago, I hired someone to now start working, assisting me, business manager, like a partner with me.
Yeah.
Um, and I can't believe how much stuff we've got done in 2 days, because I'm just blown away. Like, it's like, oh my goodness, because I've just sat here by myself every single day for the last 2 years, and it's like, why didn't I do that sooner?
Right.
Why didn't I keep doing this sooner? Because it is simple thing, like she's come in as my assistant, but so much more than that. I
Right.
realized just in 2 days, because I've had someone to throw ideas around with, and I can't believe the impact it has had in such a short time, 2 days,
Yeah.
because if you're running a business by yourself, you get too in your head and you start spinning
Yes.
the wheels. And I realized I was spinning the wheels. I was creating all the content, but from a business perspective, I was spinning the wheels way too much,
Right.
because I was overthinking it. I was putting my corporate hat on instead of throwing an idea with someone opposite the table and that person going, that's great, let's action it and we'll do this. And I was like, oh, wow. Like, I think we've crossed 20 things off my to-do list that I've had there for probably 6 months. And
Yeah.
because it was just that person helping me take that next step and also validating that my thinking was on the right track.
Right.
Because when you work by yourself, you don't
Ugh.
have that person to validate your idea. And coming from the corporate world of big teams that I've had that would, had a whole team of people that go,
Yeah.
yes, let's do that, and this is how we're going to do it. So my number one tip to people listening, if you are thinking of getting someone in to assist you, do it sooner than later. Because I
Yeah.
think I probably left it 6 months too long, but we're now really moving. and it's more that person to have that conversation with instead of just sitting by yourself all day going over and over in ideas and not
Right.
moving them.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think back to what you said just 6 months ago, right? You're ready to just toss in the towel and throw
Yeah,
it all away because you're
totally.
doing it all by yourself. And,
Yes,
had you had that other person 6 months ago, and this is, we know this is how it works, we'd probably be 4 times further along and
yeah,
less burnout. So yeah, I
totally.
love that. I love that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
let's talk about where you're going. You touched on it already when you were talking, Kylie, about just how this whole thing has built so quickly in the last couple years, but then where you're headed with branding. I mean, I'm just sitting back like in awe of like, I know exactly. Whatever your belief system is, God, universe, whatever you want to believe in, something much bigger has known where you're headed this whole time. And it makes so much beautiful sense to me that it honestly brings tears to my eyes. I'm like, okay, now I see. I see why this has all happened. I think you're getting ready to make a huge mark in the world. You already have made a huge mark in the world, but in the world of branding and marketing for women that are over 50, this is what you're positioned for. And I just want to hear more about what you think about, what's going to come of that.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like I was saying before, I kept spinning my wheels from a business perspective, and I did a post last week because I had a meeting. I've been having meetings with brands, and they said that no, women over 50, we don't put them in ads because we believe women over 50 aspire to be younger. So we like to have 20 and 30-year-olds. So I was like, ran
You're
right
like,
to a
"Ooh."
wall. I was like, what are you talking about? I did a post, I came home, did a rant, that took off. And then that's when you go, okay, everything's kind of aligning here. My background is brand and marketing. I am so damn passionate about women
Mm,
over 50. What can I do here? And today, for instance, I've launched a survey because I then went looking for data to prove to brands that actually women over 50 want to see themselves in ads, and
yes.
brands and products that start doing that are going to win. And we
Yes.
also, women over 50 have $1 trillion spending power. We have
Hmm.
one of the highest spending power out of any age bracket of women. So you go, okay, it's a no-brainer to me, but no one's
Hmm.
doing it. Not many
Right.
brands anyway. So now I'm on this whole mission. I'm now started a survey today. I'm going to create my own data and I'm going to really start driving this branding space because I think it's so damn powerful. We want to see ourselves in ads. We
Yes.
want to see ourselves represented. And I talk a lot about, I don't know if you remember the series called The Golden Girls
Oh,
back in the,
yes,
yeah.
absolutely. Yes.
Now those women were actually positioned as 50-year-olds. So
Yes.
yeah,
Crazy.
we are not like that anymore as
Yeah.
50-year-old men. We love fashion, we love style, we love, well-being, we love all of that. So why do we stop talking to us? So I've
Right.
kind of fell into this little mission out of one
Mm.
comment from a brand. So that's one big thing for me. But my other really big thing is I want to create a space for women. So I'm creating that space where women can come to and really felt seen and heard and understood, but not just on Instagram. So a bigger platform, which I'm working
Yeah.
on at the moment, where their brands can actually connect with us. I want it to be a place where we can share our stories because I realize as well, so many women have so many stories they want to share, and
Yeah.
those stories can help other women. So a
Absolutely.
platform where we can share those stories. So that's kind of all going on in the background at the moment. And really just share as much as I can globally of how this really is an incredible, powerful era to step into. And
Mm.
menopause is actually a very positive thing, it's not all
Yes.
negative. And really to spread that word globally to as many women as I can. And that's kind of where my big passion is at the moment and in that space. And I find it interesting. I do have a lot younger audience as well, like 35 up.
Oh,
And
wow.
those girls say to me, I follow you because I did a survey recently. I was fascinated. And they're like, because you make 50 look fantastic instead of
Oh,
terrifying. And I'm like, that is
yes.
awesome. So if I can spread that word more as well, that's the mission. That's the mission that I'm on.
That's, I love your mission. I am here to support it every step of the way. I mean, oh my goodness, you are so onto something. And it's, we both know enough that when we feel that fire and we feel that, there's something to fight or there's something to change, it's like, you're such a visionary that it's a blessing and a curse, I always say. It's like you have to go conquer it, you have to go build it, you have to go do it. But I have no doubt that you will. And oh my gosh, I will be here cheering you along every single step of the way. You are just such a force in the world, not in Australia, not just in the United States, but literally around the entire globe. So please don't stop. Next time you get burnout, call me and I will not let you stop. We'll go on a weekend together though.
We'll escape.
Yes. Oh my
It's a
goodness.
really funny thing just to touch on that. When I came out, everyone's like, "Oh, you're Australian." Everyone assumed I was American. I think it was very funny. Everyone's like, "Oh, Australian." It was hilarious. I'm like, "Yes."
That is hilarious. I love that. But yeah, nobody, I mean, who would know? It's a
No one
faceless
did. Yeah.
account. I love it so much. Well, Kylie, thank you so much for not just being here, but truly thank you for forging this path for women around the globe. I mean, you are just such a trailblazer, and we are so grateful for what you're doing
Yeah.
in the world in every capacity.
Thank you so much. It's definitely been a whirlwind, and I've been put on a path now I realize for a reason, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna absolutely make that count for every woman out there.
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much. You guys, I want you to share this episode with every single person in your life, like your aunts, your sisters, your girlfriends. Share it on Instagram. Tag Kylie and myself. And we are so grateful that you were here and listening. And we will see you on next week's episode. Thanks for tuning in.